Want to hear a dry joke? A desert. Hey, shh.
Welcome back to another episode of Not Another Needless Sequel. It's nice to have everyone here today.
Okay, no.
I am your
I'm
host.
sorry, I don't like it. I'll take it from here. Welcome back to Not Another Needless Sequel, where we talk movies and propose unnecessary prequels, sequels, reboots, and remakes. My name is Kane. That was my wife, Kelsey.
It's just rude he interrupted me.
I had to. You.
I
could
don't
feel
read
the
from a
power
script.
going to your head.
I don't read from a script.
I have to
it just comes
read from
to
a
me.
script because I'll stutter or something.
Today, Junior.
All right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about today's movie?
All right, everyone. As you know, it's Dune. What really got us in the mind of doing this was those popcorn buckets for Dune 2. We decided that we just could not do this movie. Dune is about a family, like the Atreides family, and they live on a planet called Caledon, and they are told by the Emperor to go to a planet, Arrakis, to try and get spice production back on track. But they have to fight the Fremen, who are like home to Arrakis, but they're also in a battle with Harkin people, I believe, who are also evil. So it's just kind of about all of that. It's all about the spice.
It's all about the spice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this movie is, obviously we're talking about the one from 2021. The movie was remade, and of course it's also a book. But it starts off showing us kind of what's going on with the Fremen from Chani's point of view. I think that's how you say her name. Zendaya's character. And she's talking about how on Arrakis they have been forced out of all of their shit because other people need the spice, and so it's been being mined by the Harkonnen people. But then she says, one day they just left out of nowhere.
But the Fremen have been fighting the Harkin because the Harkin are taking everything, and they're saying they need it for power for like space travel, but it doesn't seem like that's true. And the Harkin are losing the battle to the Fremen, it seems.
I mean, it seemed like it's been going on for a long time, and they've been struggling, but it doesn't give a reason at the time as to why they were told to leave the planet. And then we see the Caledon homeworld of House Atreides, which is like the main characters. They are the ones that are going to be taking over the spice production on Arrakis. And so you see them and how their kind of lifestyle is on their planet, and they're obviously their royalty, and so everything they have seems nice. They're rich, just doing whatever all day. They also in that scene it shows that Paul has the voice. His mother's like trying to get him to use it, and it's just such a crazy power. Like I've talked about that with you before. David Tennant's character in Jessica Jones.
Oh, Kilgrave.
Yeah, his power being insane, that you just tell people what you want and like they do it.
What's insane is they got a way around of saying I heard a rumor.
Well, I mean, yeah, this power's been done all over.
Yeah.
But, it was really cool to see. And
I think it is interesting from a standpoint of like, which we find out I think soon later on, that usually there's not men that have this power.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the only, I want to say boy, but like he's the only male with this known power, and I think like that's super important, and that's something I was trying to figure out in the movie. Is like it kind of seems like the mom has ulterior motives. That's what my thoughts were at this point of the movie, like when we were still on Caledon.
Yeah, and it does end up showing that she thought that she could like create this chosen one being that their house has been like telling people is gonna exist.
Yeah, what I'm confused at is how did she pick a male?
I guess it doesn't really go into it, but they have the power. Like that's another one of their powers. The Bene Gesserit's powers is they can pick whether they're gonna birth a male or female.
Okay, so Jessica just decided I'm gonna birth the chosen one with Leto.
Yeah.
I will say it does do a good job of showing like, even though Paul and them are rich, like his dad and others have like done well to train him to not be a little bitch.
Yeah, they seem like they're not like bad people, which, you know, especially with Paul having the voice, it's crazy because that could be just super dangerous to be royalty and have a power like that. But they're going to take on Arrakis. They were told by the Emperor. It seems, very much like Game of Thrones. I'm not sure what the actual word is for it, but there's like a main king, and then there's like kings under that king.
If we think mob boss,
yeah,
sergeants, right? Sopranos didn't.
Oh my gosh. Our Sopranos videos are the ones that do the most, so maybe it is good to talk about Sopranos so I can hashtag it in there.
Sopranos.
Just throw that in there real quick. By the way, have you guys seen The Sopranos?
Yeah. If you haven't, you should watch it. It's one of the greatest TV shows of all time.
My God.
It's better than The Wire.
So,
I got him off on The Sopranos.
After we see that they're supposed to take on Arrakis, we get a little more insight into Paul, and we see, he's been having these dreams. He's dreaming about the Fremen people, although he's never been to that planet. He also is...
It's almost like he dreams the future.
Yeah, it sort of seems that way. I mean, I don't really know yet. I mean, just to be clear with everybody listening, I've never seen the original. I've never read the book, and I really went into this pretty blind because I didn't know anything about it outside of trailers, but I didn't even look up the trailers when they were coming out because I just didn't have any interest to see this initially. Before we get to the next part of what's happening with Paul, I thought, as we were watching this movie, you can see all the money that was put into it, I guess. The production value is really good. Everything just looks good. It sounds good, and... It
does look good and sound good, I will agree.
I read that Hans Zimmer spent a week in the deserts of Utah trying to, just hear the noises and come up with the music for the actual movie.
Oh, that's
before
cool.
he wrote it.
For the score?
Yeah. It's crazy
cool.
that he was just out in the desert alone, listening.
Yeah.
But
it was just coming to him in the moment.
Yeah, I guess that's the place to get inspiration. So, like you were saying, Paul is a guy that has this power, the voice, that normally doesn't. So we see that the Reverend Mother, who seems to be the leader of this group, the Bene Gesserit, they come to see Paul before they go to Arrakis, and she comes in and, she's quite rude and controlling.
In the middle of the night, I might add, so they're hiding it from his father.
Yeah, that is stuff that they seem to be doing in secret. I didn't even really notice that it was in the middle of the night. But when she comes, she, commands the mother to leave, and Paul, starts to say something about it, and she's like, come here, kneel down. And, of course, she's using the voice as well, so he immediately does that. And she makes him put his hand in this box, and then pulls out the fucking poison needle and puts it to his neck and is like, if you move, I will stab you and you'll die. But this box is going to hurt your hand, and we're just going to test your instincts, see if you can control your animal instincts and you don't freak out or whatever. Mm-hmm. And of course, watching this for the first time, not knowing anything else, I'm just like, what a crazy bitch.
Yeah.
You come in here and you just threaten this royal family crazy.
Yeah, and it's just, I think part of it was to see if he had the potential to become the chosen one, mm-hmm. because they've never had a male with the training, and a lot of females fail that part, and they all get killed because they can't control the pain and deal with it. And you can kind of see him about to break in the beginning, and then he's remembering, his mom's before she leaves, she's like, remember your training. The mom seems really scared. She's constantly crying and whispering to herself.
Yeah, well, she seems to have, another agenda going on.
Yeah.
That has to do with the Bene Gesserit. There's even a scene where the Duke Leto, I really didn't hear his name, honestly.
We didn't hear it at all. I didn't know his name was Leto until we had the cast
I'm sure
list.
Somebody said it, but yeah. Anyway, he
Oscar
says to
Isaac.
her, Oscar Isaac's character, he says to her, if something happens, can I trust you to protect Paul? And she, of course, is like, with my life. And he's like, I'm not asking you as his mother. I'm asking you as a member of the Bene Gesserit. And she kind of gets silent, and it's like they are the controlling thing in her life that rules all her decisions. That's what she's loyal to above anything else.
Right.
And so I think in that moment, she was scared for Paul, worried for him, but also she's letting this happen because this is who she's loyal to.
Yeah, it seems like she has ulterior motives and is evil at this point in the movie.
Yeah. So they, I guess, agree that he's fine. to go to this planet. The Bene Gesserit do. And the whole time they're making comments. And honestly, the first watch through, the comments that they're making, I didn't really understand what they were talking about. But the Duke seems to know that this whole situation's weird. That them getting sent to Arrakis to harvest the spice after the Harkonnens have been there for 80 years is weird. He makes comments like, if something happens or if things don't go the way we want, like, he knows that it's wrong.
He always says that. He does come out and like talk to Paul and is like, we have to go to this planet. Like, the Emperor told us to go, but the Harkonnen is, you know, killing them and we're not there to do that, but we have to mind the Emperor. Like, he knows that there is another plan going on. I think that he didn't think that he would survive, but which we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I don't think that he knew that all of the Caladian people were going to die.
Yeah, he says when shit's starts to go down, like the very first thing happens, he says, I thought we'd have much more time.
I actually wrote that down because he says it to his wife, and it's like his wife, who's a part of the Bene Gesserit, knew this was going to happen, and we only ever see Paul's visions, but I'm wondering if the mom also has visions and knew what was coming.
I think the vision thing, they might have mentioned that that's part of being like the chosen one, but I don't know. But she did seemingly know something. I don't think she wanted them all to die, but we get a scene where the Reverend Mother is talking to the Baron, who is the leader of the Harkonnens, Stellan Skarsgård, by the way. Like, his performance as the Baron is amazing. Like, he seems so fucking scary and threatening, and it's crazy because, like, I like to think of him as a good guy.
He's like a floating Jabba.
I know, but he seems very threatening.
He
Jabba
took a page
seems
out of his son's book because his son is it.
Yeah, they play great bad guys. So the Baron is speaking with the Reverend Mother, and I laughed because they do like a cone of silence thing. It made me think of Get Smart because they turn on like the thing. Which, first of all, before they turn on that thing, there's that weird spider thing in the room. And he's like, make your creature leave, like, so we can talk in silence. And the guy's like, well, it doesn't understand. And she uses the voice. She's like, leave. And it walks out. And she's like, it understands. But, first of all, I was weirded out that was never referenced again. That spider creature. It was just there, and then it never came back.
Well,
like,
maybe it'll be in Dune too.
But what's the deal with that? That seems like it's a big thing, right? Anyway, they use the cone of silence from Get Smart to talk, and they're basically talking about the plan. And Reverend Mother's like, you can kill everybody there, except Lady Jessica and, by extension, her son Paul, because they're under the protection of the Bene Gesserit. The Baron agrees, but then he says to his, like, right-hand guy, you know, I'm not going to kill them, but the planet Arrakis is dangerous, and what happens will happen.
Yeah, like, he had a plan to kill them.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want the chosen one to rise up.
Yeah, I mean, so the Emperor also was the one basically telling them to do this, and they reveal that the Emperor is afraid of House Atreides. Like, if anyone was going to stand against the Emperor, it seems that House Atreides had the most support behind it. They were the most powerful.
And everybody respected Oscar Isaac's character, the Duke. Everybody like looked up to him and like loved him because he wasn't
horrible.
Like the other he wasn't like an evil leader.
Yeah, and he even shows that when they get to Arrakis, he is wanting to help people and take care of them. He's not trying to intrude on their land. He sets a meeting with Javier Bardem's character, Stilgar, who's like the leader of the Fremen, seemingly. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, what can we do for you? You know, anything. And of course, Stilgar is like, get the fuck out. Like, leave my planet.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I can't do that, but, you know, I want to respect you. And he tries. Whereas it showed that the Harkonnen were just killing them. They were fighting them.
Yeah, because the whole thing with, like, the Fremen people is they use the spice, and that's how they get their, like, bright blue eyes, and it, like, helps them with something. I forget.
It just said it had, like, it was kind of vague, but it said health benefits. And I read something that said the way that it helps with interstellar travel, like, when I heard it in the movie, I assumed it was fuel, but something about what I read said that you need like the vision that comes with it in order to fly ships. I don't know if that's true for the movie or...
I assumed it was fuel as well.
Yeah, that would make the most sense, but, you know, the other thing makes sense too, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right, so the House Atreides is on Arrakis. You know, they're trying to do everything. Before they got there, they sent Duncan Idaho, who's Jason Momoa's character, there.
What a name.
I know. Doesn't it seem like a cowboy?
Old Duncan, Idaho.
Duncan, Idaho.
He's heading down on them spice runs.
Yeah.
He's going to make friendly with the Fremen.
Like, Duncan, Idaho sounds like a Red Dead Redemption character.
I will say that Paul didn't want Duncan to go because he had a vision of Duncan's death.
Yes, but Duncan did go beforehand, and he was supposed to set up a meeting with the Fremen people. That's how he was able to eventually meet Stilgar, which we had already mentioned. But he is there, and when they finally meet back up with him, he's talking to them about their technology, and he admires them, and, you know, they're so powerful. Anyway, he comes back, and he's telling them about the Fremen. It's also when they meet Stilgar. And it's funny because when Stilgar first comes up, he spits at the ground and they immediately think it's like a threat. Like Josh Brolin's character, Gurney, is like his security lead and he's just, you know, a hard ass. So as soon as the guy spits, he's like ready to cut his throat. And Duncan, Idaho has to tell them like, it's a sign of respect because they have no like water. And he's like, thank you for giving us your body's moisture.
Yes.
And he's like, we shall accept it in the manner it was given. And he spits back. Anyway.
He looks bad fully shaven. Duncan, Idaho.
Well, I won't reduce him to his looks.
Oh, my Lord.
It's very not feminist era of you. Anyway.
I'm done.
Don't be like that.
Won't say another word.
No.
Next day, they go on a spice run, and Duke Leto is flying the helicopter, and they come across a sandworm who is heading towards the spice truck, and they're gonna extract the spice truck, but it's broken, so they land the helicopter to go get the people out with the help of a Fremen lady. What is her name?
Dr. Kynes.
Dr. Kynes is a Fremen, but you can tell she knows what's about to happen.
Yes.
And that
she
night the Harkin are going to attack, which it seems like we talked about. He knew the entire time.
Yes, so there's a conversation between the Duke and Dr. Kynes where he says something like, you know what happens if I don't get the spice production back on, and she's like, I've seen guys like you come and go. Like, she just don't care. So even if she knows what's going to happen, it doesn't matter because these people are still oppressing her planet.
I will say at this point in all of this, Paul goes down to help and he starts to have a vision and the spice truck is talking to him. And he like puts his hand on it and is stuck in that, and Duncan, Idaho has to go and save him, and he ends up coming out. I was just like, why in that moment was the spice truck what was talking?
I think it was just he was happened to be standing by it and put his hand to it. I did want to say, because this is the first time we see the sandworm, the director, Dennis, I'm not sure how to say his last name. I should have looked it up beforehand. I apologize. Villeneuve, maybe? He described the year-long process that went into designing the massive sandworms, the most iconic creatures of the Dune saga. We talked about every little detail that would make such a beast possible, from the texture of the skin, to the way the mouth opens, to the system to eat its food in the sand. It was a year of work to design and define the perfect shape that looked prehistoric enough. And I think it does look pretty good. Like,
it does look good.
It looks realistic. Like, it looks like it belongs there. It doesn't feel like it's just a monster. Like, its natural habitat being the dunes like that, it looks perfect.
If you think I'm not getting the popcorn bucket.
No. Please, not the popcorn bucket.
You know we love us a good popcorn bucket.
We do.
Is it AMC specific though?
I think so.
Because we don't do AMC here.
But if we're going for the popcorn bucket, we can splurge.
That's the
AMC.
That's the only reason I decided that I wanted to see Dune at all, was I saw the Dune 2 popcorn bucket.
God. So out on this spice run too, when the things are broken and he mentions something about it, the woman knows. She's like, you know, like we were talking about, she says something too about like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Things are just old. But they know that the Harkonnen sabotaged all the equipment on their way out, so they couldn't even get the spice shit started like when they got there. And that same night, betrayal.
Yeah, betrayal. That's just the word. And this is everything that we've been talking about. Like, the Oscar Isaac says something to Lady Jessica, I thought we had more time. And then he's laying in bed and thinks he hears something and goes out, and the maid that they had hired, the housemaid, was stabbed to death, and then he was like paralyzed with poison by actually their doctor.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the doctor, his wife is who the Harkonnen had. Baron had his wife and was like torturing her, and he did it all. He double-crossed him to save her, but he did equip the Duke with like a poison tooth and was like, if you use this at the right moment, you can kill everyone and end all of this.
Yeah, and so we don't see him then again for a second as we see everything else going on. I guess also there's a little scene in there that I thought was pretty cool when they try and kill Paul with that like hunter seeker dart, I think they call it, and he like hears it and then he sees it and he catches it as it tries to like fly into him and out the door.
Mm-hmm.
That part was cool, but you can see with that too, like they were planning on having them all killed.
Yeah, and Paul and his mom end up getting captured and put on a helicopter, and then Duncan, Idaho manhandles a bunch of people in a helicopter and gets away. And Josh Brolin's character, I forget his name. Gurney is just like, and then you never see Gurney, so we don't know if Gurney's alive or dead.
I think Gurney's alive, but yeah, he kind of just ran into, because they are getting attacked, and there's a really cool scene where it's like a Spartan thing, it looks like from 300, where the Atreides like warriors are on these steps and they have like knives, and some of them are holding their knives like forward and some are like this, and they're stepping down the steps towards the Harkonnen.
It was very 300, and then somebody comes from behind them.
Yes, so the Emperor's guards are there.
Because they was whooping ass.
Yeah, and so that shows that the Emperor is also like sending their people in to do it, because originally the Harkonnen people, you see them be like, why do we even need them? We outnumber the Atreides people. But...
I feel something we've stepped over is mentioning Drax the Destroyer is the lead assassin person of the Harkonnen.
Yeah, so the Baron is his uncle, and he does seem to be like leading the army.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's just something small to mention, but
yeah, but Lady Jessica and Paul are on that helicopter. They escape by using the voice. Paul like has to keep trying it, and they're like smacking him every time he tells them to do something, and it doesn't work. Yes. But he's able to get one guy to free Lady Jessica, and she's immediately like, kill him, give me your knife, boom. She's just killing people.
She's a bad bitch. And as they are trying to survive in the desert, it does come out that she's pregnant.
Yes, Paul says he knows that based on his visions, and he
knows that it's a girl, he knows the name.
Yeah, he knows just everything. All kinds of shit. She's shocked. They are now in the desert, and they have to survive away from everything because the main fortress or whatever was taken over. We do also see the Duke. They have him stripped down, just, laying there, dying, as the Baron is sitting there eating all his food. And the Baron is, going over to him, whatever the word is, gloating. Mm-hmm. And Oscar Isaac's sitting there, and he's like mumbles, and so the Baron puts his shield on and leans in to hear what he says, and I had to write down what he said because I was just super bad at it. He said
the best line of the movie. I wrote it down as well.
He said, here I am, here I remain. And he bit his tooth and just poison.
Killed the entire room, which you find out later the Baron is the only person that survived because he flew up and was hiding in the corner like a little roach.
Yeah.
Like just like chilling in the corner of a pillar in the room.
But still, the scene was so cool. Like, that he killed his acting in this. I mean, everybody really. Like, let me just hold off before I get too carried away with talking about the movie. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the desert, I didn't really write down too many specifics. I mean, obviously the movie's long, but
it's a 3-hour movie.
Yeah. So, they're surviving in the desert. They're using the tools that they have. They're trying to basically live like the Fremen. Paul, luckily, he watches like these videos, so he knows about like their sand walking, and
they meet up with the lady.
Which lady?
The lady who knew that everything was happening.
Oh, yes, they do.
And Dr. Liette takes them to a place where they meet up with Duncan, Idaho, and then the Harkonnen attack, and that is Duncan's death, which Paul had previously envisioned. They're leaving to get out, and the escape pod, the next helicopter only has 2, and Dr. Liette is going to meet them later. However, she gets attacked by Harkonnen and Emperor guards and calls a sandworm, and they all get eaten.
Yeah.
So the only survivors now are Lady Jessica, Paul, and obviously the baby. But
I felt that Duncan, Idaho, did not have to die.
He did.
The way that
he chose to.
The way it was filmed felt like he didn't do anything for them. He just decided to die.
Yeah, I agree. He's like you guys can get out. He's like,
Yeah, if I have one criticism for the movie, it's that I think the way that was shot did not show me that there was a necessity for him to sacrifice himself.
Especially because, Paul has his fight coming up, But Paul is a trained fighter.
Yeah.
You're telling me that him and Duncan couldn't have taken on those people?
Yeah, I mean, hell, Duncan did pretty good, but...
Duncan killed every single one of them. Even after he died, he still continued to fight.
Yeah.
He was like Jorah Mormont. Game of Thrones, spoiler alert, Jorah passes away, everyone, but not before he protects Daenerys Targaryen a final time.
Well...
You know exactly what I'm talking about. He gets stabbed like 800 times.
A lot of Game of Thrones just escapes me. I don't remember it. I got too much Sopranos in here to remember any Game of Thrones.
Oh!
Okay, so...
We never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
They finally meet the Fremen, and I did want to tell you, because the Fremen, they have like their own language, and I thought this was interesting. Linguistics expert David J. Peterson helped create the Fremen language for the movie. He is most well known for helping create the Game of Thrones languages of the Dothraki and Valyrian. Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, They meet the Fremen. You know, he finally meets Chani, who's the woman he's been dreaming of this entire time. They meet Stilgar again. There is a guy with them, Jamis, who we've seen him like in Paul's visions as well. But he...
In Paul's vision, I want to point out that Jamis said he would teach him the Fremen way.
Yeah.
And so
Kinda
not
weird.
all of Paul's visions come true. And
well, now that you say that, actually, if he said he'd show him the way, maybe he kind of did.
I mean, yeah, but it was different. They were friendly by I don't know.
Yeah.
But Stilgar decides that he's going to allow Paul and Lady Jessica to come with them after Paul be dapping people up the mountain. And you can... Jamis, is that his name?
Yeah, so yeah. Jamis is like, fuck all this, you don't know what you're doing, I challenge Lady Jessica, they say an Amtal.
But it's because Lady Jessica beat Stilgar, yeah.
And so he says something like Stilgar's not acting like a leader, he's been beaten. Anyway, he wants to fight Lady Jessica. Lady Jessica is not going to fight, but Paul is going to fight for her. And so Jamis and Paul fight. Chani gives him this like sacred knife. What do they call it? Chris knife?
The Chris knife. And she's like, I don't actually believe you're the chosen one.
Yeah, she talks shit to him. She's just like, by the way, you suck. I think you're going to die, but here.
You can't go into this fight without a weapon. That's just not fair. I do want to say at this point, he's having visions getting ready for this fight of them telling him he has to die to become the Mahad.
I can't think of the word.
Their word for the chosen one, though.
Yeah.
To become that person, he needs to die. So my thought was, first off, why does he have to die to become this person? And I honestly thought he was going to, like, maybe lose this fight. Anyways.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was going to happen with the fight, but he keeps winning, actually, and he's asking the guy to yield. And they're like, that's not the rules.
Yeah, people are like, is he just toying with him? And Lady Jessica's like, he's never killed a man.
And so he does end up having to kill him. It's kind of sad. And everyone's
shocked, I think.
Yeah, everyone is like shocked, but they've made comments throughout the movie as well that I wasn't sure exactly what it meant. Like, they have like those special suits for recycling water when you're out in the desert. And the first time he wears one on the planet, the lady, Dr. Kynes, is like, oh, you've worn one before? And he's like, no. And she's like, well, who told you how to wear it like this? And he's like, just felt right.
He said books. He reads books.
Yeah, he did say that. But, like, it's just, it feels almost like all the visions are making him know all these things. So he's able to do...
He's also very smart. Like, he watches lots of videos, reads lots of books, tries to learn languages. Like, he knows multiple languages.
Yeah.
And everything. That's something I appreciated about the movie, was because a lot of the time when you get like an heir to a throne, like, they're literally trash.
Yeah, they are. But the movie, when this movie ended, they say something about, going back to the temple, and he says something about a plan to like meet with the emperor and marry the emperor's daughter to prevent a war. And like, it's Lady Jessica says something else, like her plan is different from his, and then they end up like, he says some line, I don't even remember what it is, but it's like very much like I'm in charge now kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's going off with the Fremen, and it kind of ends. When the movie ended like that, people were pissed off, and a lot of people complained and felt like the movie was incomplete just to force it to be a part 2, because also when the movie was marketed, they didn't market it as part 1. It didn't even say it until the end credits. When we watched it, it said it right there in the beginning. But people thought this was just Dune. Like, it was going to cover the same thing that probably the first movie did.
The first book? Yeah, I don't know how many, because there's like tons of there's tons of
extended
Dune book series,
lore, yeah.
as well as the author died and left a lot of stuff open-ended before he finished the series as well. I think he died in like 1984 or something.
But still, the first book, I think, is called Dune, and so people assumed it was just going to cover that and be done. But anyway, the point is now I've been seeing...
Paul decided to stay with the Fremen.
Yeah, but now I've been seeing everybody that's talking about the second movie that's got to see it early is like, oh, I'm so sorry. I said it was an incomplete movie. It's perfect. Like, all kinds of shit.
Yeah, that comes in for my tidbit.
Your tidbit?
My tidbit. I don't know if it's true because, like, I think it's too early. I kind of tried to look it up, but I told you, I read the other day that Dune Part 2 has apparently overtaken Shawshank Redemption as the IMDb's highest rated movie of all time.
Oh, yeah, you did tell me that.
And Shawshank Redemption unseated The Godfather in 2008 from its 20-year reign. So I guess maybe if it stays with good reviews, it might unseat it. I don't know how they like decide because it was before it ever even came out, you know?
Pretty good.
It just came out, so I don't know. We'll see. It's supposed
That's
to be
pretty
real
interesting. Good. Well, we will have to go see it. The last fact I had for this movie is, you know, like several of these people, obviously, you can see have been in comic book shit. Oh, even God. Jason Momoa is Aquaman. Oh my
God, you guys.
You know, so Josh Brolin, he was Thanos and Cable. Dave Bautista was Drax. Oscar Isaac has been Moon Knight, Miguel O'Hara, and Apocalypse. Stellan Skarsgård was Eric Selvig. David, I don't know how to say his last name, I'm so sorry, Dastmalchian. He was Kurt from Ant-Man. And, of course, Zendaya is Michelle Jones, you know. MJ. Which, you know, she's actually in a relationship with Tom Holland that's in that movie as well. And, you know, he plays Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes.
And Spider-Man Homecoming also had Donald Glover show up as Aaron Davis, who's the uncle to Miles Morales. And if you didn't know, Donald Glover, he's known for many things, including his TV show Community, which featured him wearing Spider-Man pajamas, and the comic book writer Brian Michael Bendis described that image of Donald Glover in the Spider-Man pajamas as one of the major inspirations for the creation of the character Miles Morales. He also appeared as the live-action version of the Prowler in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, as well as voiced Miles Morales in Disney's Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. So, as you can see, Miles Morales and Donald Glover have been pretty heavily connected.
All right, what's your overall rating for the movie?
5 out of 5. This movie was fucking badass. Like, going into it without caring about it or wanting to see it at all, I was just blown away.
I was blown away by how good this was. I gave it a 4.5, and it's because I think Dune 2 is going to be better.
That's bold.
It's strictly like has nothing to do with there was nothing. I think a couple parts like it kind of moved a little slow, and it kind of took a minute for like I bet if I watched it a second time I would understand it even more, which is why I gave it a 4.5. But
I think
just saying
0.5's okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was very good.
Okay, so I thought long and hard about this game, and I couldn't think of anything, and so you're just gonna get a little quiz.
Oh God.
This is multiple choice. This one. Where do the Fremen people get their distinct blue eyes?
The spice.
I already knew you were going to know that one because you mentioned it while we were talking about the movie, and as soon as you said it, I was like, fuck. True or false? The voice is a power only members of House Atreides hold.
That's false. It's the Bene Gesserit. I can give the correct answer, thank you.
Number 3. Who are the Emperor's personal guard? A. House Harkonnen. B. The Bene Gesserit. C. The Sardaukar. Or D, sandworms.
C.
Correct. Number 4. The Gom Jabbar test is A, a treacherous path through the desert. B, a ritualistic practice in the voice. Or C, a crazy lady holding a poison needle.
A crazy lady holding a poison needle while your hand is put in a box. I wanted to say that, but that's...
Correct. Number 5. True or false? House Harkonnen went against the Emperor in the attacks on House Atreides.
False. However... I kind of, like, you could twist that to be true because they said not to kill certain people and they tried to kill them anyway.
True that. But they, you know, only the Bene Gesserit said that, and who cares if the Emperor said it, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Dune Part 2 will be out by the time this episode is released. Director Denis Villeneuve expressed interest.
I would think Villeneuve.
Villeneuve? I don't know. He expressed interest in making a third film based on Dune Messiah, saying that's possibility depends on the success of Dune Part 2. So there could be more to this. Obviously, with our sequels, we don't know. Like, plenty of people probably know exactly what's going to happen in this next one. But
if they follow the book, I assume.
yeah, but I didn't do anything like that. I wrote a sequel just completely out of my ass. So don't listen to this and be like, "Oh, that's horrible." Like, well, I mean, you can say that, but just know I'm not trying to match what's really going to happen.
I wasn't either. I actually made mine a prequel for that reason.
Oh, well, after you.
You know I love me a good prequel.
Don't we all?
I didn't name my prequel.
Son of a bitch.
The prequel would be called like Bene Gesserit because it's not really about like you'll hear. So I think it should be about like the origin story of the Bene Gesserit, like how do they get their powers, how do they get the voice, how do they know they have the voice, and I think like the beginning of the movie can kind of explain that a little bit, and you see like how Hercules starts, it's like long ago, and like it gives like the and then I think the main character should be the Reverend Mother as a child, like growing up learning the ways of the Bene Gesserit, and kind of to see how she grew up and learning of the prophecy of that it would be a male that would have the voice. And I think that maybe she had every intention of birthing the male because I guess you get a choice. However, she becomes pregnant after being raped by the Baron, which we did kind of read that is mentioned in the books that happens, that Lady Jessica is the Baron's daughter, and I don't know if she knows, but she chooses to have a female instead because she didn't want the chosen one to be the Baron's child, so she has Jessica. And because, he's just a regular man in my movie. But she curses him to become morbidly obese, and which requires him the need to fly like in the future, because we always wonder why he flies. And it's going to end with Jessica kind of growing up and being sent to Caladan to seduce Leto and become his wife.
That sucks.
And well, it kind of seems like that's why she was sent. Like, they kind of have a conversation in Dune about how she has her own motives and he had his, and maybe they actually do love each other, I don't know, but the Reverend Mother could see that House Atreides was going to be the most powerful house, so she sent her daughter to produce some form of heir, whether that be male or female. Obviously, it ends up being Paul, but it seems like the Reverend Mother was pissed about that. And it seems like because the Reverend Mother was pissed that she had Paul, she chose to have a girl when she got pregnant again, and it seems like she got pregnant on purpose. To try and make up for the fact if they have to kill Paul. She could still be worthy of being a Bene Gesserit.
Well, I like some background on that. Like, that does sound good. I mean, I really like all the world building that this does. Like, I just like knowing that there's all this shit that has gone on before my viewing of the movie.
It's just about how her path to become the evil. Like, we think the Reverend Mother's evil. She kind of does seem evil. But maybe there's an ulterior motive we don't know about.
Yeah, true that.
So it's not really like a fully fleshed out story, I guess. But that's my idea.
I like it. Mine's too long. It's called Dune Following. Paul Atreides has been living among the Fremen for 3 years now, and he has accepted the death of House Atreides being brought on by the Emperor, and in doing so has vowed revenge. The Fremen are split up, as some believe Paul to be the one, and others question their presence there and even blame them for all that they've endured since the fall of House Atreides. While Paul was not sure about the stories the Fremen have about him and his mother, he has seen the value in the Fremen alliance as his father Duke Leto did. Paul begins to use his influence to lead the Fremen people against House Harkonnen. Sabotaging their outposts at first seems to be enough to harm the spice production, but Paul says it isn't enough, and they begin ambushing the soldiers, taking prisoners, and extracting information from them. Lady Jessica attempts to reason with Paul as he becomes more vicious and brutal every day. Some Fremen don't believe that he's the chosen one, including Chani, like she mentioned, but she is revealed to be pregnant with Paul's son. And after Paul eventually orders the exile of the Fremen that don't believe in him, there's a divide in the group, causing Chani, Lady Jessica, and the rest of the non-believers to flee the Harkonnen, while Paul, Stilgar, and Paul's devotees continue their war. Meanwhile, the Baron has discovered the House Atreides lives due to Paul's actions against the Harkonnen, and he sends Rabin to finish the job. Rabin, in his rage-filled search to find Paul, finds Chani's group instead and gets the jump on them. Without seeing their fate, we instead see that Paul's group has arrived back at the Arakan fortress and are storming the fortress to kill the Baron. Upon making their way to the Baron through his numerous forces, the Baron informs them of the situation Chani's group is in and offers to make a deal with Paul. Paul is hesitant to accept, but before he can, the Baron commands Rabin to kill Chani's group, causing Paul to leap into action to assassinate the Baron. Before we can see the fate of Chani's group or the Baron, we cut to the credits.
Interesting. You kind of pulled a few things from the book there. I haven't read the book, or I've read like a little bit about like the plot of it, but honestly, it was kind of hard to be like Dune, like which book would it, because there's so many.
Yeah, it seemed like went on for quite a while.
Yeah, and it's like, are all of the book about, or I can't imagine all of the books being about Paul Atreides.
We'll see what they do. Well, thank you for making it this far. If you'd like to vote on whose sequel idea was the best, come by our YouTube channel for the polls, or let us know your idea with a comment, tweet, or you can reach us at needlesssequel@gmail.com. Links, as always, will be wherever you are listening. If you had a good time, share a show with someone, leave us a review, and come back for more. We would love to have you. All right, be easy, everyone. We will see you next week.
Bye!